Welcome to the Brit Buzz. How did a small European kingdom, tucked away on the edge of the Iberian Peninsula, rise to become the world's first global empire? The Portuguese Empire wasn't just any empire, it was a pioneer of globalization. With bold explorers, innovative technologies, and unmatched ambition, Portugal charted new territories, opened up global trade routes, and created a network that stretched across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. In this video, we'll uncover how Portugal transformed from a small kingdom into a global superpower. We'll explore the visionaries who made it possible, the challenges they overcame, and the legacy they left behind. This is the story of exploration, innovation, and how one nation reshaped the world forever. The foundations of the Portuguese Empire. The Reconquista and independence. The foundations of the Portuguese Empire were laid during the Reconquista, a centuries-long campaign to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule. By the 12th century, Portugal emerged as an independent kingdom under Afonso I, becoming the first unified Christian state in the region. Portugal's independence and early stability gave it a unique advantage. The kingdom's location on the Atlantic coast allowed its people to look beyond the traditional European sphere, towards the vast and uncharted oceans. Unlike other kingdoms focused on land-based conquests, Portugal's leaders envisioned expansion through the seas. This strategic positioning was key. The Portuguese coastline, with natural harbors and proximity to the open Atlantic, became the launchpad for exploration. Their eyes were set on Africa, Asia, and eventually the Americas, as they sought wealth, trade, and new opportunities. Early maritime innovations. The dream of overseas expansion required more than ambition, it demanded technological innovation and skilled leadership. This is where Prince Henry the Navigator played a pivotal role. Prince Henry, often called the father of Portuguese exploration, didn't sail himself but established the school of navigation at Sagres in the early 15th century. This wasn't a typical school, it was a hub of innovation, attracting the best minds in cartography, astronomy, and shipbuilding. Under his guidance, the caravel was developed, a revolutionary ship design. The caravel was smaller, faster, and more maneuverable than other ships of the time, making it ideal for exploring unknown waters. It could sail closer to the wind, allowing Portuguese sailors to navigate challenging oceanic routes and explore further than ever before. Advancements in cartography, map-making, also played a crucial role. Portuguese maps became increasingly accurate, incorporating information from explorers' voyages. This not only reduced the risks of exploration but also allowed Portugal to chart new routes and claim distant lands effectively. Together, Prince Henry's leadership, the caravel, and improved navigation techniques set the stage for Portugal's age of exploration. By the mid-15th century, Portuguese sailors were venturing farther down the African coast, laying the groundwork for the empire to come. Early expeditions in African exploration. Pioneering the African coast. Portugal's maritime explorations began with the ambition to find wealth and establish a direct trade route to the riches of Asia. The African coast became the first focus of their efforts. In the early 15th century, Portuguese explorers started venturing down the western coast of Africa. Initially, their expeditions aimed to chart unknown territories and assess the potential for trade. What they discovered was a wealth of resources, including gold, ivory, and enslaved people, which could fuel Portugal's growing economy. The Portuguese established a series of trading posts and forts along the African coastline. One of the most notable was the Elmina Castle in present-day Ghana, built in 1482. These forts served as bases for trade and provided a foothold for further exploration. The slave trade also became a grim but central aspect of Portugal's involvement in Africa. They captured and traded enslaved Africans, first to Europe and later to the Americas, establishing a system that would have devastating effects for centuries. These early expeditions not only enriched Portugal but also showcased their ability to navigate dangerous and uncharted waters, building their confidence for longer voyages. Reaching the Cape of Good Hope. The ultimate goal of Portuguese exploration was to find a sea route to Asia, bypassing the overland trade routes controlled by Middle Eastern empires. This dream came closer to reality in 1488, when Bartolomeu Dias achieved a groundbreaking milestone. Dias was the first European to sail around the Cape of Good Hope, the southernmost tip of Africa. His voyage proved that it was possible to reach the Indian Ocean by sea, opening up new possibilities for trade. The journey wasn't easy. Dias and his crew faced treacherous storms, unfamiliar waters, and the immense challenge of navigating without modern tools. But when they rounded the Cape, they found calmer waters that led toward the east. Dias named this point the Cape of Storms, though it was later renamed the Cape of Good Hope to reflect the optimism it brought to Portuguese ambitions. Dias's historic voyage marked a turning point. It demonstrated that the path to Asia was within reach, setting the stage for Vasco da Gama's even more significant journey a decade later, opening the sea route to India. Vasco da Gama's voyage, 1497 1498, the dream of reaching India, the land of spices and wealth, became a reality when Vasco da Gama set sail in 1497. His voyage was a daring venture that forever changed the course of global trade. Vasco da Gama, equipped with the navigational knowledge gained from Bartolomeu Dias's earlier expedition, led a fleet of 4 ships around the Cape of Good Hope and across the Indian Ocean. In 1498, he arrived at Calicut, modern-day Kozhikode, on the southwest coast of India. This was the first direct sea route connecting Europe to India. The impact was immediate and profound. The Portuguese gained direct access to the lucrative spice trade, bypassing the overland routes dominated by Middle Eastern merchants. Spices like pepper, cinnamon, and cloves, once expensive luxuries, now flow directly into Portuguese ports. This trade brought immense wealth to Portugal, transforming the small kingdom into a powerful trade empire. Vasco da Gama's success also established Portugal's reputation as a leading maritime power, paving the way for further expeditions. Establishing trade dominance in Asia. Portugal's dominance didn't end with finding a route to India. The next step was securing control over key trade routes and ports in Asia, a mission led by figures like Afonso de Albuquerque. Goa, India, 1510. Afonso de Albuquerque captured Goa, which became Portugal's primary base in Asia. Goa was ideally located for trade with the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. It also served as a hub for missionaries spreading Christianity. Malacca, Malaysia, 1511. The Portuguese then turned their attention to Malacca, a vital trading port that connected the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. Controlling Malacca gave Portugal access to the rich markets of China, Japan, and the Spice Islands, modern-day Indonesia. Macau, China, 1557. In East Asia, Portugal established a foothold in Macau, where they gained permission to trade with China. Macau became a gateway for Portuguese merchants to access Chinese silk, porcelain, and other luxury goods. Afonso de Albuquerque's vision was clear: dominate the sea routes and ports to establish a Portuguese monopoly on the spice trade. His strategy of combining naval power with diplomacy solidified Portugal's control over critical parts of Asia. Portugal's ability to seize and hold these key ports not only expanded its empire but also reshaped global trade. By the early 16th century, the Portuguese had built an interconnected network spanning Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and China, cementing their place as the world's first global empire. Brazil, the crown jewel of the Portuguese Empire. Discovery of Brazil, 1500. Brazil, Portugal's most valuable colony, was discovered almost by accident. In 1500, the Portuguese explorer Pedro Alvares Cabral, en route to India, veered off course and landed on the coast of what is now Brazil. This unintentional discovery brought a vast new territory under Portuguese control, thanks to the Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494, which divided the New World between Spain and Portugal. At first, Brazil was primarily a source of Brazil wood, a tree valued for its red dye. However, as the colony developed, the Portuguese realized its true potential lay in agriculture, particularly in sugar cane production. Sugar plantations were established along the coast, turning Brazil into one of the world's largest producers of sugar. This white gold brought immense wealth to Portugal and solidified Brazil's place as the crown jewel of the empire. By the 17th century, Brazil's economy expanded further with the discovery of gold and diamonds in its interior regions. These resources fueled a gold rush, attracting settlers and increasing Portugal's global influence. The colony's natural wealth made it the centerpiece of Portugal's empire, overshadowing its territories in Africa and Asia. B. The role of slavery in Brazil's economy. Brazil's booming economy came at a devastating human cost. The Portuguese turned to enslaved Africans to meet the labor demands of its plantations and mines. Starting in the 16th century, millions of Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic in one of the largest forced migrations in history. These enslaved individuals worked under brutal conditions in sugarcane fields, where the work was grueling and the mortality rates were high. In the 18th century, the demand for labor grew even more with the rise of gold and diamond mining in Brazil's interior regions. The transatlantic slave trade became a cornerstone of Portugal's economy. Portuguese merchants dominated the trade routes, shipping enslaved Africans to Brazil and other colonies in exchange for goods like sugar and gold. Slavery had a profound and lasting impact on Brazil, shaping its culture, demographics, and social structure. Even after slavery was abolished in 1888, the legacy of this system continued to affect Brazilian society deeply. That discovery of Brazil and its subsequent exploitation transformed the Portuguese Empire. While the colony's natural wealth made Portugal one of the richest nations of its time, the human suffering that built this wealth remains a stark reminder of the darker side of empire building. The Treaty of Tordesillas and global expansion in the late 15th century. Two of Europe's most ambitious powers, Portugal and Spain, were racing to claim new territories in the New World and beyond. To avoid conflict and solidify their dominance, they turned to diplomacy. The result was the Treaty of Tordesillas, signed in 1494. This treaty, brokered by the Pope, divided the non-European world between Portugal and Spain along a demarcation line. Everything to the east of the line was granted to Portugal, while everything to the west went to Spain. This division was based on the limited geographical knowledge of the time, with little understanding of the actual size and layout of the world. Portugal's share included territories in Africa, Asia, and part of South America, which later became Brazil. Spain, on the other hand, claimed most of the Americas. Portugal's focus on Africa, Asia, and South America. Unlike Spain, which concentrated on colonizing and exploiting the Americas, Portugal honed its efforts on building a vast maritime trading network. Africa, Portugal secured trading posts along the West African coast, establishing control over the lucrative trade in gold, ivory, and slaves. These posts also served as key refueling points for voyages to Asia. In the east, Portugal focused on dominating the spice trade, by capturing strategic ports like Goa in India, Malacca in Southeast Asia, and Macau in China. The Portuguese created a network that funneled exotic goods such as spices, silk, and porcelain back to Europe. South America, Brazil. The treaty's division granted Portugal control over Brazil, though its full value wasn't realized until later. With sugar plantations and later gold discoveries, Brazil became a cornerstone of the Portuguese Empire. The Treaty of Tordesillas marked a significant moment in world history. It not only shaped the colonial ambitions of Portugal and Spain but also laid the groundwork for the global empires that would dominate the next several centuries. While the division seemed equitable on paper, it favored Portugal's strengths as a maritime power, enabling it to forge the world's first truly global empire. Decline of the Portuguese Empire. Overextension and competition. By the 17th century, the Portuguese Empire had reached its zenith but was beginning to show signs of strain. One of the key reasons for its decline was overextension. Portugal had established a vast network of territories across Africa, Asia, and South America, but managing such a sprawling empire with limited resources proved to be an insurmountable challenge. This overreach coincided with the rise of powerful European competitors. The Dutch, English, and French entered the global stage, bringing their own advanced naval technologies and ambitions for empire building. These nations aggressively targeted Portuguese strongholds, especially in Asia. Dutch challenges. The Dutch East India Company seized several key Portuguese ports and trade routes in Asia, including Malacca and parts of the Spice Islands. By the mid-17th century, the Dutch had effectively replaced Portugal as the dominant European power in the spice trade. English and French competition. The English and French also began establishing their own trading companies, chipping away at Portugal's influence in Asia and Africa. The rising presence in the Americas further eroded Portuguese dominance. As a result, Portugal lost critical colonies, trade routes, and its once monopolized access to spices and other luxury goods. The empire's wealth dwindled, and its global dominance faded. Internal struggles. Portugal's decline was further exacerbated by internal challenges that weakened the empire from within. Economic decline. The Portuguese economy became increasingly reliant on its colonies, particularly Brazil, for income. However, mismanagement, corruption, and the loss of key trade routes led to a steady erosion of wealth. Inflation and a lack of industrial development at home left Portugal unable to compete with more robust European economies. Political instability and the Iberian Union. One of the most significant blows to Portugal's independence came in 1580 when King Sebastian of Portugal died without an heir. This resulted in a succession crisis, and the Spanish King Philip II seized the opportunity to claim the Portuguese throne, forming the Iberian Union. For 60 years, 1580–1640, Portugal was effectively ruled by Spain. During this time, Portugal's enemies, such as the Dutch and English, targeted Portuguese colonies as part of their conflicts with Spain. The Iberian Union drained Portugal's resources and reduced its ability to defend its empire. In 1640, Portugal regained its independence under the House of Braganza, but by then, much of its former glory had been lost. The empire was no longer the dominant force it had once been, and its remaining colonies faced growing threats from European rivals. The combination of external pressures and internal weaknesses led to the decline of the Portuguese Empire. While it managed to hold on to some territories, such as Brazil and parts of Africa, the age of Portuguese global dominance had come to an end. Legacy of the Portuguese Empire. Despite its decline, the Portuguese Empire left a profound and lasting legacy that shaped much of the modern world. From the spread of language and culture to its contributions in navigation and global trade, Portugal's influence can still be felt today. Spread of the Portuguese language and culture. One of the most enduring aspects of the Portuguese Empire is the global spread of the Portuguese language. Today, Portuguese is spoken by over 250 million people across several continents, making it one of the world's most widely spoken languages. This linguistic legacy is especially visible in Brazil, which remains the largest Portuguese-speaking country in the world, as well as in Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, and S. Copyright and Príncipe, former Portuguese colonies in Africa. The Portuguese also spread their culture, religion, and traditions, including Catholicism, which remains the dominant religion in many former colonies. The architectural influence of Portuguese colonial design can still be seen in cities like Goa, India, Macau, China, and throughout Brazil, where colonial buildings and churches stand as testaments to the empire's presence. Long-lasting influence in Brazil, Angola, Mozambique, and beyond. The Portuguese Empire had the greatest influence on the culture, economy, and society of its colonies, particularly in Brazil, Angola, and Mozambique. Brazil, the crown jewel of the empire, continued to be a major economic power even after its independence in 1822. The Portuguese language, religion, and many cultural traditions were retained, shaping Brazil into a unique blend of European, African, and indigenous influences. The legacy of Portuguese colonial architecture and art can still be seen across the country. Additionally, Brazilian cuisine, with its distinctive flavors, owes much to Portuguese influence, particularly in the use of spices, cooking methods, and the introduction of sugarcane plantations. Angola and Mozambique. In Angola and Mozambique, Portuguese influence remains strong, especially in language and religion. Though both countries gained independence in the 20th century, Portuguese is still the official language, and Catholicism is widely practiced. Despite challenges, the influence of Portuguese culture can be seen in local customs, food, and music. Other regions, Portugal's former colonies in Africa and Asia such as Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde, and Macau have preserved elements of Portuguese culture. In Macau, Portuguese influences blend with Chinese traditions, creating a unique cultural landscape that persists today. Contributions to navigation, global trade, and early globalization. The Portuguese Empire also played a crucial role in shaping the modern world through its contributions to navigation and global trade. Navigation. The Portuguese were pioneers in navigation techniques. Under the leadership of figures like Prince Henry the Navigator, Portugal developed new map-making technologies and ship designs, such as the caravel, which were crucial for ocean exploration. These innovations laid the groundwork for the broader age of exploration, leading to global trade routes and connecting continents. Global trade. The empire was instrumental in the rise of global trade networks. Portuguese traders were among the first to establish direct sea routes to India, Africa, and South America, connecting distant parts of the world in ways that hadn't been possible before. Their dominance in the spice trade and later in the slave trade created the framework for the early globalization of commerce, which set the stage for the globalized world we live in today. Early globalization. The Portuguese Empire helped initiate the early stages of globalization, setting up the intercontinental trade routes that would connect Europe, Africa, the Americas, and Asia. The empire's maritime dominance allowed for the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures across vast distances, influencing the world's economy and culture long after the empire itself had faded. The rise and fall of the Portuguese Empire is a story of ambition, exploration, and enduring legacy. From its humble beginnings as a small kingdom on the Atlantic coast to becoming the first global empire in history, Portugal's influence spread across continents, shaping the modern world in countless ways. Through pioneering maritime exploration, Portugal opened the doors to global trade, connecting Europe to the riches of Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Its strategic focus on Africa, Asia, and South America allowed it to control vital trade routes and build a vast network of colonies. Brazil, the empire's crown jewel, remains a testament to Portugal's enduring impact, with its language, culture, and history still central to the nation today. Despite facing fierce competition, internal struggles, and overextension, Portugal's empire left an indelible mark on global history. Its contributions to navigation, global trade, and the early stages of globalization are still felt across the world. Though the empire itself may have declined, the Portuguese language, culture, and legacy of maritime exploration continue to shape nations, peoples, and economies around the world. The Portuguese Empire's story is a reminder that even the most powerful empires eventually fade, but their influence can echo through time, shaping the future long after their fall.